lovely spate of lightning talks for you today. And we are going to get started with Ashley Gordon, who is going to tell us how she convinced 105 colleagues to help her write the docs. Please welcome Ashley.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Gordon. I'm a senior technical writer, and these are my notes. This is not me being rude to myself. So anyways, I'm the senior technical writer at my company, and we have this really big issue, and that issue is our internal documentation is a mess. Can you cheer if your internal documentation is a mess? All right, okay, cool. So people go into our internal docs, they drop information in it, and then they never touch it again, and it rots. And that was a problem, so we purchased a brand new shiny internal knowledge base, and we took all of our content, and we dropped it into our shiny new wiki, and that didn't solve the problem. What? The reason that didn't solve the problem, and you can answer this for me, garbage in, garbage out, exactly. So we needed an internal content overhaul. And the thing is, everybody at our company knew that our wiki was in rough shape, and everybody really supported the idea of fixing it, but nobody knew how to do it, and nobody had the time, and nobody knew where to start. And so I took charge, and I became the project manager. But I knew that I couldn't do it myself. I needed everybody's help because I don't have the time to ask all the questions and fix all the content about all the things that I don't even touch. And so instead, I decided to use everybody else to help share the lift. Now, if you want to know all of the ins and outs and all of the steps about how I actually did this project, I'm going to have an unconference session after this, and I'm happy to show you all of the visuals and all of the things that I did to do this step by step. But what I want to talk about today are the 6 elements that have made this project successful. So element 1 is structure, which is the thing that I just talked about, right? I have a spreadsheet that tracks every single person, every wiki that they own, and the status of their review and editing of that wiki. Is it manual? You betcha. But it's the best thing that I have right now, and I need something, and so this is what I'm using. The structure is really visible. It's totally public to everybody at the company. Anybody can go in and see. I've got stats that I'm working on in there. It's all tons of formulas. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole, but it's been great. So element 1, structure. Element 2, positivity. You might have caught on, I'm a peppy person. I'm a very positive person, and I've been really positive about this project and really passionate about it. And I've been doing that from the beginning, and my goal was to hopefully make that be infectious to everyone else, and I've actually seen that happen. My positivity, I think, has given people hope that this is actually gonna work, and we're actually gonna fix this. It's been really encouraging, and I'm actually seeing the project go well, so I think it's working. We're 3 months in. We have archived 250 wiki pages. We have reviewed 542 wiki pages, and we only have 512 wiki pages to go. So I'd say we're doing a pretty good job. So positivity is really powerful. And along with positivity, we have element number 3, which is empathy. And I have made it really clear to all of my contributors that I know this is not an ideal situation for them. They don't necessarily want to be here. They don't want to be doing writing. They have other projects that they're working on. And despite that, I really need them to contribute. I need their time. I need their effort. And I let them know. I know you have other priorities. I know you have other things you're working on, but I cannot do this alone, and I need you, and I appreciate you. And I also make it clear that I recognize you might not want to be writing. You might be really uncomfortable writing. You might be really nervous about this, and that's okay, because I am here to help you be successful in this project. We are doing this together. You're not alone. So element 4 is flexibility, and that's because they have other priorities, and I don't want to come in and say, you must do this right now, this is the most important thing. I think the hot fix is a little more important than the internal documentation right now. So if they aren't going to hit a deadline, I tell them that that's totally okay, and I tell them that we will reset their deadline so that it works a little bit better for them. Element 5, gentle reminders. Your deadline is flexible, but you do need to get this done. I would like this project done by 2025. I feel like that's really achievable right now. So, gentle reminders. Hey, you really need to work on this. And then element 6 is accountability, making sure that everyone on the team knows where they're at, knows where their colleagues are at. It just helps to put visibility into it. People are able to see that the project is making progress and that they can do this. So it's going well. People have really bought into this. We're seeing progress as those stats show you. And there are even a few people who seem like they might be a little bit passionate about this project. So if you would like to know more, I'll be at table 7 during the unconference immediately following the lightning talks. Thank you all very much.
Nice job, Ashley. She came in on time. She's setting the standard. It's a high bar. All right, next up we have Juwel, who is going to tell us about the experience from dry dock to desert. Thank you, Juwel.
Thank you, Jody, and oh my gosh, I'm so inspired. Thank you, Ashley. That was wonderful. Hi, my name is Juwel. I'm glad to see all you documentarians here at this once-a-year event, which is very much what I want to talk about today is what we do once a year. So like normally, a lot of our work, we get to do day over day, the same thing, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, where it's like, okay, you can go and ideally, you get to go plan your projects and like set up, okay, we need to work on this, and it's like, okay, let's do our daily stand-ups, blah, blah, blah. But what about if you're only doing something once a year, like, I don't know, coming to a conference or going out to like some, like a little party in the desert or something. So I participate in some orgs outside of work. I work with the Oakland Emergency Services, and I am with a camp, a bunch of documentarians in the desert. It's the Black Rock Public Library. We're taking librarians if you have nothing to do in August. And we deal with a bit of fire, so like these kind of rare events that are big impact, and it's so, but how do you plan for it? And what we found is actually, you plan for it in the same way that you just do your normal work, like your day-to-day and month-to-month work, where like, we meet weekly, like, so we have our planning committee, we get to meet weekly, we gradually bring people in and do like kind of monthly trainings. We have all of our knowledge management sitting in a big Google Drive. Year over year, we have to do our updates, but it's very much the same as like, oh, there were release notes from the core orgs like FEMA or Burning Man org, just copy the old stuff, integrate into your new stuff, teach people as we go. What else? We're doing, yeah, it's Google Docs, it's Google Slides, we're using Trello for task management, because you gotta like put in for your permits and like track all of your projects. We're brainstorming stuff in just like Google SketchUp, whatever, figuring out just, okay, who wants to do what, assign these tasks out, and just follow up every week or every month of like, okay, just keep moving along. And especially it's, you know, somebody suggests something, it's like, oh, you're the owner now? You get to have fun with this. And we find some very passionate people that's like, I want to work on this project. And we're like, great, go for it. You know, the same way as our day jobs, all of these volunteer and side gigs, it's all the same. So, yeah, we find it's like, okay, even if during work, like during our day jobs, we get to keep things just gradually moving, it's like, no, even if our documentation, our processes are sitting in the dry dock, sitting in just, you know, maintenance and not really going anywhere for 6 months, you then have these 6 months where it's like, oh, we can start gearing up and we can teach people again, and then we bring it out to the event, and it's like, and then you get out to the event and you're like, oh, well, we don't have our Google Docs, we don't have our phones, we don't have our Wi-Fi, but did somebody print it out? Okay. Does somebody put like a backup copy on their phone? Cool, we can still keep doing our daily stand-ups, especially now that we're like in person. And we can keep doing like our, like, oh, there's another smaller event happening next, or like tomorrow. Let's get together the night before and do our preparation for it in very much the same way that we do at our regular job. So even when we're out in like a fire zone, be it like an actual fire or a fire next door, and if you don't have your Wi-Fi or if like your computer's caught on fire, it doesn't matter. We still know how to do the work. We can take what we're accustomed to doing, bring it out into these more challenging conditions where things are, you know, a little more difficult, but like, we know what we're doing. It's fine. And if you don't know what you're doing, we'll just do it live like always. That's, you know, you just figure it out. So if you want to chat more about how you organize your like less frequent events, like your annual events, there'll be an unconference session, table 5 at 2:30 after the lightning talks. And if you're interested in hanging out with a bunch of documentarians in the desert, blackrockpubliclibrary.org, or come chat with me. And thank you, Write the Docs. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Juwel. Well done. Okay, let's see who's next. Next we have writers. What's your ritual with Matthew Brandabur? And I hope I didn't say that incorrectly, Matthew. This is coming out of your clock. Hurry, hurry. Scamper, scamper. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Matthew Brandabur, writer. Thanks for inviting me up here. I'd like to do a little crowd work here. Raise your hand if you have a writing ritual. Anybody have one? Do you mind sharing quickly? Briefly what it is? Okay. I have one of those too. Don't worry. It's okay. That's awesome. Okay, thank you. So how about one over here? Did I see a hand up? Yeah, with the sequence. Okay. A timer. Marvelous. One more, please. From over here. Did somebody raise their hand? Yeah, way in back. Whenever I feel stuck on something, I will just open up the document and swear a bunch of it until something else. I love that. Swearing therapy. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. That's really good. In my writing ritual, one of the things I do is I think about the things that you need to think about as a writer. What is the I voice? Who am I in this document or in this piece of writing? And who is the reader, the lector, to get fancy? Who am I talking to? And then what is the goal? Either what do I want, what am I trying to get done, or what am I trying to help the reader get done? What I've found is that this ritual has helped me, has provided a lot of unexpected benefits in other areas of my life aside from just writing the docs. So as a person, it really helps me in the morning to think about, who am I? That may sound a little deep, but that's the way I am. What do I want? There are a lot of different ways to answer that question. Another question I asked myself a long time ago was, why are you like this? Right? And if you ask yourself that a few times, like every couple months, you'll get a different answer every time, and it gets deeper and weirder. So that's what that's what this talk is about, is kind of using, hot wiring a writing ritual if you have one. If you don't have one, try one. Make one up, steal one from somebody else, borrow one, iterate. But you can get benefits out of it that go beyond the page. So I'm going to tell you quickly about my ritual. I do 3 pages of longhand every morning. And I'm looking for an opportunity to be truthful with myself. That's it. I'm kind of going into the cave of my consciousness, right? And I'm just saying, nobody else here, no bats, it's just me. I'm going to tell the truth to myself, and that will give me a better chance of being truthful later with other people. I also take half a page and I copy something, either a Dickinson sonnet or maybe something from Proverbs. I spent 3 years with this book, which is the Sutras of Patanjali, and I copied the whole thing 5 times through. Fantastic, just 3 lines at a time, fantastic. And then I do 30 breaths. I do some breath work, just a few in and out breaths. Hold my breath a little bit between, little box breathing. I call that one an exercise in freedom, because it turns out that deciding when you're going to take your next breath is the most fundamental way to experience freedom. My wife gave me that insight when we were walking, and I'm like, that's fantastic. Novelist. Okay. My book is called The Cave, the Quill, and the Whale, and it's about, and the subtitle is A Movable Retreat. And I have 3 use cases for this book. The morning ritual, 1 minute, thank you. The morning ritual, if you get half an hour, if you get 20 minutes, if you get 45 minutes, maybe even an hour, spend some time by yourself in your own company without your device. Turn that shit off, leave it inside, whatever. Spend some time by yourself doing what I call active solitude. Little journaling, maybe grab an old growth book, something old, something that's been proven to have some utility, not maybe something you get at the airport that's a trade paperback and it's going to be thrown away. It was written in a hurry, it's going to be consumed in a hurry, and someone's going to throw it away. And then take some breathing. experience your freedom. I was describing the use cases, that there's a daily one. There's also consider a long weekend. Bring along a retreat practice on a long weekend and spend the first 45 minutes deciding what you want to get out of your retreat. And then spend a little time by yourself. That's it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Matt. All right, moving right along here. Next up, we have Jessamy Taylor, who's going to tell us about Wizardry. I'm sure we're all dying to hear about Wizardry. I know I am. Okay, that's right. Yep. This is not counting against your time, I swear. But this is. It will come up on its own, I swear. All right, here you go, Jessamy.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jessamy, obviously. So today I want to talk about how actually no one is a wizard. So no wizardry is about to happen here because the whole point is anyone can do it and it's not magic, no matter what it is. You got it. So as documentarians, we have to learn all kinds of things that we don't know about yet, right? So we might be documenting something we've never touched before. We might be learning a new docs tool or switching to a completely new, like docs as code, something like that, or learning a new programming language. And sometimes that can be intimidating and it's hard to get started. So I want to talk about a mindset and strategy for how to learn hard things. Come on, slide. Maybe. Okay, so first mindset, no one is a wizard. Even the person who seems like they're a wizard because they just seem to know all the fancy tools, know all the technological magic, I guarantee they spend a lot of time trying to figure things out, Googling things, etc. So please keep in mind, you can do it too. If this looks familiar, if you've ever caught yourself saying to yourself, oh, well, I'm not the CSS person, I'm not the docs as code person or the software engineer, I want you to let go of that thought and realize that you can become that person, and yes, you too can figure it out. Oh my gosh. Apparently, Wizardry is required for operating Google Slides. So again, another way to say this is, if something is difficult or confusing, that does not mean you're bad at it. You just have not learned it yet. Okay, so how do you learn it? You click a lot of times. Okay, so I like to start with a framework because it's so easy to just like dive right in and try to start Googling the exact problem you think you're working on and quickly get lost with unfamiliar vocabulary or like all these details that don't actually pertain to the problem that you're really trying to solve. So it's nice to take a step back first and just try and find, like, what's the context of the thing you're working with? How does it fit in with things that you already know? And what words do you need to know to understand how to actually ask the questions and Google the things for the right answers? So how do you find that framework? Try and find some kind of beginner tutorial or like a 101 guide, something like that, and just spend a little bit of time getting those high-level concepts. You don't even need to necessarily get through a whole course. Just maybe spend like 15 minutes out of an hour-long video, and just like that first little bit can sometimes give you just enough knowledge to get started effectively. And if you're using like a whole bunch of different tools together, try and spend a little bit of time on each one so you can understand how they fit together. And then, once you've just got that little bit of knowledge, do go ahead and jump in and Google as you go. So you do not need to be an expert to start doing something. You just need just enough information to ask the right questions, whether you're asking another human or a chatbot or a search engine, whatever it is. And with your framework of context and vocabulary, you'll be able to ask those right questions. And sometimes you go back to square one and have to learn it again because your slides still aren't working. Okay, keeping up morale. This can be challenging and frustrating. So try to do what you can to keep yourself in a good mindset, whether you need to take a break, move your body, sometimes that's helpful, and be kind to yourself. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions when you need to. So even though no one's a wizard, sometimes another human can help you get unstuck. If you're a team of one, maybe ask the docs channel on Slack or something. And finally, reflect. Realize once you've done this thing that you can do other hard things, and use this experience to remind yourself that in the future and inspire yourself. Also, if you want to talk more about any of this, please come to an unconference session that I have scheduled at 2:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessamy. Does anyone ever sing Jessamy Mucho to you? Does anyone ever sing Jessamy Mucho to you?
I have actually heard that before.
Jessamy Mucho. Oh, I forgot my laptop. Okay, Manny, you're up next. Manny Silva. Sorry, you don't get your name up there because you're going to plug in your laptop. I don't have a song for you, I'm sorry. But I do have a mic.
I'll take the mic, thank you. So, while that's popping up, I may be a dungeon master, Dungeons & Dragons people, keep it clean, but I am no wizard. As many of the things I'm going to be talking about today are technical. I'm talking about LLMs. I'm talking about integrations with LLMs. I'm going to do my best to briefly summarize things. There will be an unconference session later this afternoon. Feel free to go down and check out the board. I'll talk about it more there. But thank you for joining me for Rags to Riches, How Our Content Affects Retrieval Augmented Generation. I am Manny Silva, head of docs at Skyflow. I am also the codifier of docs as tests and the creator and maintainer of Doc Detective. Happy to talk about any of that whenever. But for today, let's talk about LLMs and their knowledge problem. Generally, the training sets used for large language models are wildly out of date, whether it's by months, sometimes years, depending on which model you're using. And when an LLM doesn't know something that you ask it about, they like to make shit up. It's called hallucination. That is the technical term for it. Either way, LLMs only know what they've been trained on, and their data sets are limited. So how do we get around this? Retrieval augmented generation. If you ask an LLM what retrieval augmented generation is, you might get something like that. Is it red, amber, green? No. Is it RAG analysis? No. Is it random access generator? Nope. Is it resource allocation graph? Also no in this context. But if you use RAG, and ask an LLM what RAG is, it might give you a response like this. Retrieval augmented generation is a way of supplying additional context to an LLM that was not included in its training data set to help it make more informed responses. Now, where does this context come from? Again, using another term you'll see thrown around with LLMs a whole bunch. Our documentation is the short answer. Or API responses. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'll leave it to the individual to decide that, but it is a very useful thing. Now, what does RAG look like? What are all the moving parts? Because it's more than just an LLM. What it comes down to is there are three components. There's the LLM itself, OpenAI, Anthropic, whoever, whatever. We've got the retrieval tools, knowledge bases, and APIs. We've got and orchestration layers like LangChain and others. And then, this looks really complicated, I'll try to simplify it. What it comes down to is you take your documentation set, you clean it up to remove whatever garbage and markup you don't want. You load it into whatever system is going to be storing it, you split it up into little itty bitty chunks so that it can fit into the prompt that you send to the LLM. You create vectors or numerical representations of your text, and then you store it in a database called a vector database. I know, it's a lot, but essentially, you're taking your content, you're splitting it into digestible chunks, and you're storing it. And then what ends up happening, sorry, I know it's pixelated, is a user prompts the system, the orchestration layer goes and does a search, retrieves some responses, chunks of data, goes, passes it to the LLM, and then passes the LLM's response back to the user. But how can you improve things? Because if your documentation content is mishandled, it can make things worse instead of better. There are a few things that are really important because LLMs don't know anything. That's the whole point of using RAG. If you give it a random bit of text, it doesn't know where it came from. Metadata is super important. Where did it come from? What's a URL that is the valid source of truth for this that the LLM can reference? What is the heading that it was associated with? The surrounding context. Is the content actually clean? Does it make sense when you read it? Does it make sense when the LLM reads it? And properly chunking your content. If you chunk it way too small and you have 12 words in a chunk, it's useless. If you make it way too big, then you're going to overload the amount of text you send into the prompt in the first place. But what can we do? Really cool stuff, like improve chat-based experiences, all this chat over your docs stuff you see online. But also, something I'm happy to talk about later, I've built a tool that allows me to take known good context, PRDs, engineering, design docs, that sort of thing, and programmatically apply it to templates to generate new first drafts of stuff. So all sorts of cool, nifty things. You can read more about it or ask me more about it. There's my LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. There's a blog post that I wrote for Stack Overflow. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny.